Okay, we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. I hope you're doing well. Just want a big shout out to Ralph as you do your exercises. Ralph, thanks for listening. Everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. I have an episode for you. I was listening to a podcast at work because I work full-time on top of being a podcaster. And over my overnight shifts, I get to listen to a lot of great podcasts like Ralph over there at AskRalph.com. And as I listened to these great shows, I came across one with Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. You'll remember him. He was the guy that went out and worked alongside of people who did, well, dirty jobs. And he is on a mission in the U.S. to fill a big vacancy of open positions in the world where people aren't being drawn to these types of jobs. They are going to university and getting a degree and all that's great, good stuff. But there's a sea of unopened, available jobs that people are just not applying for. And there's a big need coming in the US and Canada, around the world, for people who have a trade, something that we all need. AI is not going to do everything, everybody. There's going to be somebody who's got to be able to clean out your septic tank or, take care of the electrical in your house or build you a house or like on and on and on. There's going to be jobs that just won't go away. We need people. And Mike's on a mission to re-energize in the minds of young people around the idea that there's something to be honored about hard work, work ethic, and showing up. In podcasting, what I did is I took this conversation and I was thinking of it from our perspective as podcasters. Because the one thing I find when I'm working with podcasters, I've had many come through the door, some for a while, some for a short time. And what I'm finding in general, broad terms, not you, I'm not talking about you, I'm just in general broad terms, there is a lack of work ethic that goes along with a podcast. Specifically for hobby podcasters is what I'm finding, is that the idea that I'm going to invest my time, effort, and work, sweat equity into my show, it's just not there. And when they don't see the results that they're hoping for in the first few episodes, they abandon the show, completely walk away. And what I'm finding is there's a lack of work ethic behind the scenes. You're going to hear a lot of podcasts where the podcaster, the host of the show, is going to talk about, just podcast when you want to, and you can do whatever you want, which we talk about here on this show. But there's really a lowering of the bar of the expectation that a podcast involves work. A podcast doesn't just create itself. Unlike AI podcasts that actually do create it by themselves, a podcaster, traditional podcaster who does it themselves without AI doing everything from beginning to end, we actually have to show up and do the work. And I think as podcasters, we need to re-stoke the fire that when you start a podcast, you need to show up with a work ethic behind the scenes to make this thing work before you give up on it or say that podcasting's broken or whatever. It comes down to you first. So I have a couple clips from a podcast where Mike was on talking more to an audience of dads. So he wasn't specifically talking about podcasting. And I'm going to pull out some clips of what he was talking about that I think relate really well to podcasting. If you want to hear more of this conversation expanded more towards the parenting side of how to raise your kids with the expectation that a dirty job and a trades job is not really a bad thing, then you can head over to Dad Space, my other podcast, one of my other shows, and you can listen and expand on this and leave it a little bit more, and I'll have more of the interview for you there. But when I was listening to this show in particular, the host, okay, everybody, just a little tangent here before we continue. Okay, 1 second.
And now, it is time for Dave to share a most excellent rant on something that he just won't stop talking about. Please allow Dave to share his thoughts on this particular subject so that his glorious wife Jennifer may have a moment of rest from Dave going on and on and on about this topic. Here is Dave and his rant for this week.
Okay, so here's my little rant. The host of this show, I'm not going to name the show because I don't want to name and shame anybody, but my gosh, The host of this show was half asleep the whole time he was interviewing Mike. And Mike did all of the heavy lifting. He did all of the energy came from Mike. And the host was so monotone, so quiet. And that might just be his temperament. It might just be how he does his show. I don't know the show in particular. I haven't listened to every episode. But my gosh, the effort level was absent in this interview. Like, show a little spark of excitement, everybody. Come on, show up. Like, you, as a podcaster, this is outside of what we're talking about today. You set the tone for your show. Don't rely on your guests to do it for you. And what I'm finding is there's podcasters who are just so snoozy. I'm an introvert, and I have to turn up my Dave dial every time I come to the mic. Because if I did this at my normal setting, you would be like not here right now. You would have already tuned out, because my normal setting is I'm quite quiet. I'm not super loud and boisterous and all that. I have to turn it up a little bit just to be normal, because I'm just really, really casual. And that's who I am. And I know that. And this podcaster, for hosting Mike on his show, does not know that. And they were just completely like snooze fest. So please, everybody, when you record, especially if you're an interviewer, you set the tone for the show. And even if you're a single hosted podcast and just you not doing interviews, the tone of your show reflects on you and how you show up on the mic. So if you're not feeling it, it might not be a good day to do that interview. It might be a good day to reschedule. It might not be a good day to jump on the mic as a solo podcaster. If you're just like kind of la, right? Show up with some energy, everybody. Come on, you can do this. You can be excited. You can do this. Put a little bit more heart into it. Anyways, let's get back to the show. So one thing that Mike Rowe has is he has this thing called the Sweat Pledge. And I put a link for you to go check it out on his website. And it's a list of things that you have to commit to be part of what Mike's building here. He has grants to help you to go back to school. He's got all kinds of people looking for people like you who want to hire people like you. And I love what he's putting out there. This is a direct result of Dirty Jobs. And he's taken this. He goes on podcasts. He has his own podcast. And he's really trying to wave that flag that we need people to take up these jobs that are sitting there vacant right now. I think he was saying like for every 5 tradespeople, like a plumber or electrician, for every 5 of those that retire, 2 replace them. So you can already do, if you do math, it's pretty obvious. We're gonna have some problems in the future when you have a broken toilet, a house that doesn't work with your electrical anymore, and you call up and there's only a handful of people now where there used to be many. I know my father-in-law was an electrician forever, and he never went without work. He always had something to do. So there's a big need now. And as I look at my family members, I can see that not very many of the kids from my wife's father's family have even pursued anything to do with trades, intensive trades work. For my own family, my oldest son and my youngest son have both kind of worked their way into that line of work, and they're both busy as heck. They can do whatever they want, and they can set their own numbers, do their own everything. Like they can make as much as they want, and it's nice to see that. So Mike is talking about work ethic on this show. And as I was listening to this, I thought, as podcasters, I see a lot of people giving these messages to podcasters that you don't have to try hard. You don't have to do this. You can just outsource everything. You can just do what you want, and there's no expectations. And I think we've almost kind of swung a little bit too far to one direction where people aren't putting the work in anymore. And what's frustrating for me as a podcaster, when I'm here to coach you and I give you something to do and I ask you to do this task and come back and let's talk about it, I get back together with them and they haven't done it. They haven't done the work. They kind of go, well, it's just a hobby, And I'm like, well, you're just going to get the results when you think of it as just a hobby and you don't really care to put the effort into it. And it's sad because these people could do so much and reach so many just by putting in the work. Now, I'm not telling you to throw your life in the toilet and just podcast and shun your family and avoid your partner and give up on your job and sell everything to be a podcaster. No, that's the other side of this. Where can we find this common ground that a podcast can be fun, but it's also work? It's both. It's not just one. It's not just the other. It should be a good, healthy balance of the two. And I think that's what I'm getting from Mike as I listen to this interview. I'll have little clips and I'll jump in here with it. But the little clips from the show going, listen, if you're going to do something that matters in life, it's going to take some work ethic. It's going to take some sweat equity. It's going to take some effort. It's going to be something that's going to require you to really put in the time if you want to see the results that you're hoping for. So here's a little bit of Mike on a podcast talking about work ethic, his sweat pledge, and on from there. A lot of great stuff from Mike Rowe, host of Dirty Jobs, show I always love watching. But here's Mike talking a little bit more about work ethic.
I think it's very popular right now to upend taboos. I think it's very fashionable right now to unpack and distance ourselves from things that feel fundamental and traditional. I run a scholarship program today. There's a foundation called MicroWorks that evolved out of Dirty Jobs, and it's been around for about 15 years. And we award work ethic scholarships to kids who don't want to pursue a 4-year degree, but would be more comfortable learning a skill. Plumbers, steam fitters, pipe fitters, guys like my granddad, electricians. We have a huge looming shortage of electricians coming up. But really, all of the skilled trades have been on the ropes for a long time. There are over 9.5 million open positions right now that don't require a 4-year degree. So my foundation awards what I call work ethic scholarships because I want to at least do something to encourage a conversation around work ethic and maybe challenge some people.
And what I'm seeing in the world is a lot of things are handed to us. We as parents, we might have been the ones to create this expectation that everything gets handed to you. And that might be in big part our problem, our fault. But the idea that you have to work for stuff, right? Think of like just something you need, right? We have instant gratification now. And I think in podcasting, we have instant gratification desires for our show. We create a podcast, we buy a mic, and we start a show, and we should be famous. That's kind of how it works, right? That's how it works everywhere else. Why does it not work in podcasting? Well, because you're lacking in the work behind the scenes to make something happen. And that's the big thing that I've been noticing in podcasting when I work with podcasters. That piece seems to be either completely missing or underdeveloped. This idea that I got to put in the effort to make this thing work. Again, whether it's a hobby or a business podcast, either one. It's going to take effort. It's going to take time. It's going to take my responsibility, my attention to make this happen. And it's a parallel to what Mike's talking here about what's happening in the trades. It's an interesting correlation between the two.
Work ethic is one of those things that has become weirdly controversial today. When you talk about the importance of work ethic, what a lot of people hear is, I don't know, some kind of dog whistle, some sort of negative thing, some like if I talk about the importance of working hard, many people will hear that as me running cover or providing cover for greedy, rapacious capitalists who are trying to hire people, right? It's strange. But if you're talking about traditional components of things that will help you be a more successful worker over the course of your career, I'm sorry, I still believe work ethic is somewhere near the top of the list, along with delayed gratification and a decent attitude and personal responsibility and the willingness to show up early and stay late and volunteer for every crappy task there is. All of those things they're not terribly popular right now, but they're terribly important.
Now, just imagine you and I working together as a podcaster and as someone here to help you and guide you in podcasting. And I just laid out for you that if you want to start a podcast, then you better be ready to have delayed gratification. You better have a really good attitude. You better be responsible. You better be early. You better stay late. You better volunteer to do the sucky things in podcasting. All of these things would make people go, okay, I need another guru. I need somebody else because I don't want to do any of those things. I just want a podcast and it to be a huge success and make a ton of money and be insta-famous. That's all I want. And those are the people who give up on podcasting faster than anyone else, is because they don't want to do any of those things that Mike just talked about. And that's scary. It's very scary because your podcast success is not just based on an algorithm. It's based on work ethic. It's based on you showing up, like Mike says.
Along with delayed gratification and a decent attitude and personal responsibility and the willingness to show up early and stay late and volunteer for every crappy task there is. All of those things they're not terribly popular right now, but they're terribly important.
Work ethic is a big key part of podcasting. And again, not a lot of gurus talking about this. They want to give you the easy way into podcasting. You don't have to do anything. You can just go to ChatGPT and it'll create all your podcasts. You don't need to have any conscious thought about anything. And you become part of the big soup out there of just general content about general things with general ideas with not a lot of help. It's just a bunch of yeah. It's just a bunch of yeah. And if you want to be a bunch of yeah and you don't have a work ethic behind your show, you're going to end up just like every other show, forgettable. That's the consequence of a lack of work ethic in podcasting. It is. It is.
All of those things they're not terribly popular right now, but they're terribly important.
And if you're thinking, Dave, you're seeming a little bit harsh here. Like, do we all really need to put in this effort? Like, why is work ethic so important, Dave? Why are you talking about this? Again, it goes back to what Mike's talking about. This is the reason why we have more openings for skilled trades than ever before, and why people just don't see it as a viable path anymore. And Mike's pushing back on that, and he's trying to fix a problem that exists right now and is only getting worse. And in podcasting, as a podcast coach and as somebody who helps podcasters, I see this same work ethic and lack thereof also influencing podcasts. And it's unnerving, and I'm cautious about what's going to happen in podcasting if we continue down a path where work ethic is devalued and almost made to be a topic that we just don't talk about in podcasting. No. We don't talk about that. Don't talk about this, Dave. Well, we need to.
So yeah, I find myself from time to time probably sounding like the unpersuasive neighbor on the porch, shaking his fist at the sky, yelling at the kids to get off the lawn or, get a job or some such thing. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be unpersuasive, but I do believe that those qualities are weirdly under assault today. And part of what I try and do with my foundation is push back against that and make a more persuasive case for 9.5 million good jobs that are sitting there wide open, offering wonderful opportunities to anybody who would have them.
I know you're thinking, Dave, Mike's talking about jobs. You're talking about podcasting. This is a bit of a stretch, but is it? Is it really? Is it really? There are so many opportunities in podcasting that I think as podcasters, we don't treasure what we really have here. The opportunity to speak to the world, to get our voice out there without anybody on our shoulder telling us what we can and can't do. The accessibility of getting our voice out there. You don't need a radio station. You don't need a TV station. You don't need an agent. You don't need a network. You don't need any of these things. You need a microphone at best and a way to get your files on the internet and go for it. And in that right there, because it seems so simple to start, it seems so simple to do. And there's parts of podcasting that are getting easier all the time, but it comes down to you and your work ethic as far as I'm going to show up. I'm going to make this a priority. I'm not going to be just kind of like lazy fair, kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. Podcasting is like, oh, the last thing on my list. Well, if podcasting is the last thing on your list, then your audience is going to make you the last thing on their list. And that's how that works. And I get slightly amused. I don't show it to my clients when I talk to them. I get slightly amused when podcasters reach out to me and they're like, Dave, I'm not growing. And I look at their podcast and I'm like, you haven't released an episode in like half a year. They're like, yeah, but why am I not getting new listeners? Well, you're not there. People have forgotten about you. People don't care about you. People don't care about you until you give them some reason for them to care about you. And that comes from being a part of their life. Now, I'm not talking about consistency and having to do it every week and have to do it every day, like my show right here. I'm not talking about that. I mean being a part of their life when they're thinking about you, when they're thinking, hey, I want to go check out that show again. And they go to your podcast and it's cobwebs and no activity, and you've given up on your show, it looks like, from an outside perspective, and you're gone. They're going to replace you. You need to know that, because the work ethic's not there to keep the thing going, however you do that. So keep that in mind. Just keep it in mind.
I don't know of anybody who was born with work ethic. I don't know of anybody who was born with delayed gratification or a decent attitude. You tell me your 2-year-old, when he was 2, is sitting there and the 4-year-old's next to him, and the 4-year-old wants the thing the 2-year-old has. Like, there's not a negotiation. There's not, we don't dive into the deep end of lake empathy. We take it. We take that fire truck. And maybe just for good measure, we bash him over the head with it, just to let him know that, hey, I'm 4 and you're 2, and this is the way it happens. So then dad has to come in and we have to have a teachable moment. We have to correct it, right? So the fault in our stars is real. And, it seems to me, what I know of my dad and my granddad, they were good at correcting it. There were no trophies for participating. There was no sympathy. Oh, you have blisters, so you don't want to split the wood because you have the blisters. Okay, well, we'll just sit in the cold tonight. The blister is the thing that'll pop, and then it'll be a callus, and then you won't have them anymore, and so forth and so on.
And that's what happens when I talk to podcasters and I push them to say, well, what are you doing to invest in yourself? What are you doing to invest in your show? What are you doing to grow? Are you practicing? And I get so much pushback from podcasters about the idea of practicing. Like, how dare you ask me to practice? I should be able to do this in one take and not have to edit. I should be able to post what I say in real time. I can just go live to air, and what it is what it is, and I should be successful. There's no commitment to being better. There's no commitment to the calluses of a working hands on something that takes time and effort to master. You don't just master chopping wood. You don't just master building a house. You don't just master cleaning out a septic tank. It takes time and effort to learn. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you're going to grow. You're going to know what you're doing. And eventually you get good at something. And in podcasting, just because you bought a microphone doesn't make you a podcaster. Just because you ride a motorcycle doesn't make you a mechanic. Doesn't mean you know what you're doing as far as fixing it on the side of the road. You bought a motorcycle. You have enough money or debt to buy a motorcycle. You're not a mechanic. You can learn how to become a mechanic for sure. You can go to school for it. You can learn how to do this. But just because you bought a bike doesn't mean you're a mechanic. So just keep that in mind. So we heard talk from Mike around his pledge that he has, the sweat pledge. And I have a link for you from his website in the show notes. Go there and check it out. You can read his original sweat pledge. And what I did is I basically took it and I reworked it from a podcaster's perspective and tweaked it a little bit. So it's all built on what Mike has created for his sweat pledge and for Mike Rowe Works and everything. It's right there on the website. Please go check it out. Share it with anybody, especially a parent who's trying to guide their kids as to what's next. But I took that and turned it into the podcaster's sweat pledge. And I'm going to read it to you. And I'd love for you to think about this from a podcaster's perspective for your own show. Okay? The podcaster's sweat pledge. Here we go. I believe I have already been given something powerful. As a podcaster, a voice, a platform, and the opportunity to create. I do not take that lightly, and I'm grateful that I get to show up and speak into the world. That's number one. I believe I am entitled to the opportunity to create a podcast, to publish a podcast, and to grow a community. Nothing more. Audience, success, and recognition, all of those things are earned through consistent effort. They're not expected. They're not guaranteed. That's number two. I believe that there is no such thing as a small podcast. Every episode of every podcast is a chance to improve personally as a human being, as the creator of the podcast. It's an opportunity for me to connect, and it's an opportunity for me to serve. It's up to me to make it meaningful. It's not up to my audience. That's number three. I do not wait to find my passion. I bring passion into everything that I do, from my recording to my editing, in every conversation, in every interaction. I bring the passion with me. Passion is something I apply, not something I chase. Next, I respect my resources. Any time, money, and energy, all of those things are things that I respect. I build within my means. Do what you can with what you have, where you are, and I focus on sustainable growth over shortcuts and fast tips. I take responsibility for the quality of my podcast. Good audio, thoughtful content, and intentional production are not optional for my podcast. They are part of my work behind the scenes for my show. I show up consistently. I record when I said I would, and I publish when I said I would. I do the work, especially when it feels inconvenient and difficult. As a podcaster, I do not complain about downloads. I do not complain about algorithms or slow growth. If something isn't working, I adjust, I learn, and I keep moving forward. I stop complaining as a podcaster. I take ownership of my own education as a podcaster. I study the craft. I learn from others. I test new ideas, and I never stop improving, and I will stop complaining when I put in a lack of effort. I take ownership for my show. This is my responsibility. I am the product of my effort, and I am the product of my consistency. I do not blame platforms. I do not blame trends or the algorithm or timing or anything. I look at what I can control and I act on it. Do what I can with what I have where I am. I understand that podcasting is not always fair. Some shows grow faster than others. Some shows get lucky breaks. I stay focused on my lane and respect the process for my show instead of being jealous of someone else. I choose discipline over excuses. While others hesitate, delay, or quit, I press record, I publish, and I keep building. I don't get caught up in the drama behind the scenes of people who are looking for attention and use their podcast as a way to gain attention for themselves. I'm here to gain attention for my audience. I choose discipline over excuses. Podcasting is real work. My podcast matters, and I will treat it like it does. So, if you decide to work with me as a podcast support for you and your journey, be ready for some tough questions and be ready to answer the question about your work ethic. Because you're going to get a lot of podcast gurus who are going to play to the lowest common denominator, and they're not going to push you this way because they want to keep you and they want you to hire them. I'm going to push you because I know you have value and I know you're going to grow. You may create a podcast that nobody listens to, but you are going to be the best version of yourself in the process of creating this thing. You're going to learn stuff about yourself. You're going to be a better human being at the end of it, even with no listeners at all. And I'm not trying to lower the bar so much that it's easy to step over, but I am trying to give you the options to realize that if you value this thing called podcasting, if you value this wonderful opportunity that's been given to you to do this thing called podcasting, that you're going to have to put some effort into it. It's going to require some sweat equity. It's going to take time and effort to make a podcast that people really care about. And if you're up for that, then reach out to me at howtopodcast.ca. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to the show. Talk to you tomorrow. Hey, it's Dave. Thank you for sticking around to the end. This is where we do our call to action, or pathway to engagement, as I like to call it. And here's what's interesting. I've been doing this podcast for years now, hosting meetups, helping podcasters, editing for people, doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And when we have people who follow the show reach out to me and say, Dave, guess what? I'm like, what? They said, I just hired my first consultant. I'm going to go work with them and help me with my podcast. And I kind of go, wait a minute. You what? They're like, yeah, I found a podcast consultant and they're going to help me with my show. It's hard to pretend to be happy. Why? Because I want to work with you. Wait a minute. Dave, the guy, Dave, who's been doing the How to Podcast series and 8 other podcasts, and the guy that's been with you the whole time, and we've done meetups, we've done time together, we've spent time together, and you've hired somebody else. Now, maybe I'm not your person. That's okay. I'm totally fine with that, by the way. Keep coming back. I love having you here. But if you're like, well, I didn't hire you because you don't have anything like that, do you? And I do. And I have been for a long time. And I don't talk about it enough, apparently, because people are going to other people looking for things that Dave does. So, in the spirit of Dave, and in the spirit of making better connections with you, I do have personal coaching in podcasting. I have podcast community. I have all of the resources. I have all of the background, the history in podcasting, and the love for you as a fellow podcaster. If you're looking for a podcast coach, somebody who can walk with you, somebody who cares about you, someone who is your challenger, your cheerleader, and your coach. Because even though I've said on the show you can't be all three, I think I am. And I want to help you. So, howtopodcast.ca. Please, before you go searching anywhere else, come to where we started and where we met first, right here. I'd love to help you. howtopodcast.ca. Come reach out to me. I want to talk to you. Thanks. You're still here. Great. This is the bonus stuff for the end of the episode. Now, podcast titles. The episode titles. The title of this episode. Podcasts require work ethic, sweat equity, and effort. It takes effort to make a podcast people care about. That's the name of this episode. For your titles, there are different ways to do titles, and there's no single best way. The way that you should do it is the way that you want to do it. That's what it comes down to. Look at Joe Rogan. He has the name of the guest, Dave Campbell. It's like, okay, who the heck is that? Right? So unless you know who they are, then you are kind of gambling if you're going to like the episode. There's nothing in there that tells you if what the conversation is going to be about: politics, money, government, I don't know, whatever, right? You have no idea. So that's one extreme example, and it's hard to measure yourself against somebody like that because they're already famous, so everything they do works. Okay? It's not fair. Then you have people who just they write War and Peace for their titles, and it's just way too long. There's people going to tell you shouldn't use your episode numbers. Mine's right there. E763 is the beginning of my episode. Why? Because I want to. It's the only reason. And gurus hate that. They hate when people take a stand and say, well, I just want to do that. So I do it. I don't really, people are going to tell me it's totally the wrong thing to do. And you know what? Then you go listen to that show. Because this, doesn't matter to me. I do it for myself and I do it for my audience. There you go. So I'm fine with that. For my episode titles, I would say try to get the best words closer to the beginning of your title than at the end. Some of the apps are going to truncate, meaning cut off the end, and they're going to have a character limit. YouTube has 100 characters, I believe, including spaces, commas, punctuation, and letters. So anything after 100 doesn't show. So on YouTube, I will break my own way of doing it, and I do remove the episode numbers on YouTube because they don't seem to matter as much on YouTube. That's a totally different platform than everywhere else. So there I will do it. Go look at my YouTube videos, audio on YouTube. You will see that I take off the episode numbers from the beginning, but they're the first things in the description. So they still show visibly on screen because they give you a little bit of the description in the title and they show the episode to the world. So at least it's there and it helps me stay organized. Do whatever you want with your titles, but I would tell you to put some thought into it. And don't just go to AI and ask AI to give you your titles because they don't know your audience the way you do. So use the words your audience would use to find you. Use the words that your audience would understand in a search, and that will help you. If you need help with your episode titles, reach out to me anytime. We'll go together, look through some of your last 5 episodes, and I can give you some thoughts. howtopodcast.ca, it's right there. Calendar's there all the time, anytime. And SpeakPipe and Buy Me a Coffee, it's all there. howtopodcast.ca. Talk to you tomorrow.